Welcome to Season 4 of My Wife the Dietitian, a fun, evidence-based weekly podcast about nutrition and healthy living.
On this week's episode, we're taking a question from a listener. Is insulin resistance the same as diabetes? This is a topic that needs some clarification. Stay tuned while we discuss both insulin resistance and diabetes.
Enjoying the show? You can help others find it and enjoy it too by giving us a 5-star rating or review. If you feel like reaching out to us with a question or comment, you can send us an email at mywifetherd@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit our website at mywifethedietitian.com, as well as our social media pages. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy the show. Welcome to My Wife the Dietitian. Hello, Sandra.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah, we're a little bit behind.
Well, it's January. It is a new year.
Why, no, it's not like January 1st, though. We had a bit of a hiatus, so we're just getting back into the My Wife the Dietitian studio here after our hiatus. And so now we're wishing everyone Happy New Year.
And taking a question from a listener. We appreciate those emails and messages.
Absolutely.
There's not much information about the listener herself, but she says, is insulin resistance the same as diabetes?
Interesting question.
Oh, it's a big one.
Okay.
It's a big one in terms of, I think it's a very good question. It's something that I hear a lot, and people are confused because they hear a lot about diabetes, they hear about insulin, they hear about blood sugars, and how does it all relate? Yeah,
I was going to say the same thing. It's one of those words that we're hearing a lot more, like all those words you just said. We're hearing a lot more, and I don't know if there's a reason for that, if there's an elevated occurrence of diabetes and blood sugar issues and all those things you just said, or if it's just, I don't know, people getting worried on social media.
Well, I'm going to ask the husband of the dietitian.
Oh, that would be me.
That's right.
Yeah, the wife's husband.
The wife's husband. What do you think? Is insulin resistance the same as diabetes, Rob?
I have no idea, really. And that's not really my forte.
No, I know, but as a yes or no answer, you got a 50% chance.
No.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
No, yes, no.
No,
yes.
I just assume it's not because they're related.
Stop torturing me, Sandra.
Yeah, no, already.
Sorry.
They're related somehow, I'm guessing, obviously, because insulin is related to diabetes, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will cover that question and answer, and we're going to discuss some insulin resistance and diabetes information and some stats and what's happening in the body, why it's increasing in the population, like the epidemic of diabetes has been increasing over the last few decades.
Yeah, that's a thing then, hey? Like it is increasing?
Yes.
Okay.
In younger people and the overall population.
Wow.
What it leads to, like having diabetes, what it leads to, or even having insulin resistance, what that leads to, and management and treatment, and some lifestyle changes. We're going to talk about 3 simple things or things you can do in your life to help, and 3 examples of breakfasts that are good for people with diabetes or insulin resistance.
Oh, okay. Because that's how you start your day, and you want to start by eating some decent food that's not going to spike your blood sugars.
Yeah, and I think we've done episodes before about breakfast foods not to include. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, 10. I think there was 10 breakfast foods not to eat, or maybe that was 10 breakfast foods to eat. We've done a few episodes, so
yeah. What are we at?
Yeah, I don't know, a couple hundred.
Yeah.
So, this is season 4.
Woohoo!
I know, season 4. So we've done
favorite number.
3 seasons of episodes. That's a few.
Yeah, there's lots and lots of listening that listeners and the audience can refer back to for specific topics. In the Spotify app, if you just go to My Wife the Dietitian, you can actually just, in the search under that podcast, you can search for either
a topic.
Guest, topic, yes, or a guest. Like if you heard that someone, like a friend of yours or someone you've worked with or someone you know on social media or out there, like an expert, has been on our show, because we've had a ton of different experts over the years, you can actually search their name and it comes up and you can listen to that episode. I've been doing that a lot over the holidays, listening to former guest episodes, and such a wealth of information. It's amazing to listen to.
Yeah, I was going to say the same on YouTube as well. You can just search, if you go to our page on YouTube, you can just search up whatever topic and it will give you all the episodes that we've discussed that particular topic. It's a really good way to find what you're looking for.
Yeah, or the website. So mywifethedietitian.com, go there, and under the podcast page, you can actually search for a topic.
There you go. Little handy tips.
Absolutely.
All right. So diabetes and insulin resistance. Go.
Okay. So diabetes mellitus is 2 words, and where it comes from is Greek for to pass through or siphon. Diabetes. And mellitus is Latin for honey sweet.
And that's part of the diabetes term, I guess. We just shorten it to diabetes, but diabetes mellitus is the full name of the condition. That's
right. That's type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the most common one. 90% of cases of diabetes are type 2, 10% are type 1.
Right. And type 1 is where you have to have your needle insulin shot every day.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Type 2, you might have to too. But anyways, so diabetes mellitus is characterized by chronically elevated levels of sugar in your blood. And there's reasons for that. So 2 main reasons that this happens in the body.
Okay. It sounds familiar. We just discussed this with someone recently.
We just discussed it with Julie from Love Boat.
Right. Julie from Love Boat.
No, what was her name?
Kim Kyle.
Yeah, I love that. She said that was her former life when she was a tourist.
She worked in the hotel industry. Yeah. And she was the problem solver in the hotel and had to make everyone happy. She
made everyone's visit better. So I've been watching Love Boat lately because she probably you didn't see that, but I'm going to actually show you a show this week. It's funny. It's a funny show. I remember watching that. Anyways, okay. So what were you going to say? We were talking about it with Kim.
Oh, with Julie, with Kim. Isn't one that your body can't process it? Like there's a condition in your body that doesn't allow your body to absorb, or it does absorb, or something like that. And the other one is probably
let's just
food. Okay. How about you tell everyone?
Yeah. So either your pancreas isn't making enough insulin.
Right.
So insulin is the hormone that keeps your blood sugar in check.
Right.
Or your body becomes resistant to the insulin's effects.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to say.
Okay. So that's what you were trying to say, where like your pancreas is pumping out more insulin. So it's pumping out more because you have all this blood sugar that has to go into the cells. Remember we talked about the lock and the key, and that the insulin basically takes the blood sugar into the cell. So if your pancreas isn't making enough insulin, then there's going to be more blood sugar in the blood.
Right.
But if your body becomes resistant to that insulin that your pancreas is making, it still can't get into the cells.
Right, exactly.
The blood sugar still isn't getting into the cells, and it's getting sweeter in your bloodstream.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's what I mean. Greek for to pass through or siphon for the diabetes, and mellitus is Latin for honey sweet. So, do you know how people used to test urine before the modern lab techniques?
I don't want to say it, but did they taste it?
They tasted it.
Really?
Do you remember Outlander? We were watching that show, and Claire. Yeah, anyways.
Really? That's, I guess, that's how you tell. A little bit subjective, though.
So the diabetes urine can taste as sweet as honey. That's why the name to pass through and honey sweet.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, it spills into the urine. So when I'm looking at clients or patients of mine, if they have blood sugars over 10 millimoles per liter, like chronically, I know that that is spilling into their kidneys are becoming affected. All their small little microcapillaries in their body attached to all their organs are becoming affected. They're getting, it's, when if you have sugar in water and you stir it up and you keep adding more sugar and it gets really
concentrated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thick and really sticky.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening in the blood.
Oh, interesting.
So don't you think that would maybe have an effect on your whole body?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like your blood flow, your ability for your blood to flow properly and get to where it needs to be. Yeah. Plus the concentration of sugar, right?
Mm-hmm. Blood sugar. Yeah.
Yeah. That's got to affect the whole composition of the blood, I guess.
Yeah. And how it's working, how it gets into the organs, how it gets, at the very end of the extremities, it starts getting clogged up and then the nerves start to die. And that's why people get amputations.
Okay.
There's more amputations happening in the U.S. than there are of gunshot wounds.
Wow. So with cholesterol, is cholesterol in your blood as well? Or cholesterol clogs your arteries where your blood is traveling?
Correct. But we'll talk about that.
Yeah, no, but I'm just thinking it sounds similar. Like the effects are kind of similar to what cholesterol does as well, right?
And having diabetes actually really increases. Well, most people with diabetes have to either take cholesterol medications or they have cholesterol issues, mostly triglycerides.
Okay.
So type 1 diabetes is insulin deficiency. So it's insulin deficiency. There's no insulin. Your pancreas does not produce.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why they have to take insulin
shots. Yeah, daily.
More than once a day.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 times usually, or everybody's individual. So type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance diabetes.
So your body produces it, your pancreas still produces it, but your body resists what? Resists.
Your body becomes resistant to its effects.
Right. Okay.
And so either your pancreas isn't making enough insulin, or your body cells are not becoming
like receptive.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it could be a combination of that happening for people.
Right.
So if type 2 diabetes is an insulin resistant disease, the question, is insulin resistance the same as diabetes, would mean it's on the same
yeah, I see what
theme,
you're trying to say.
But it's actually not. So there's a lot of people that have insulin resistance.
Oh, I see.
But they don't have diabetes.
So insulin resistance is kind of a term or a condition as well as diabetes? Like you can go to the doctor and they'll say, oh, you've got insulin resistance.
Yes. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So in 2021, there was a study that said 40% of adults in the U.S. have insulin resistance.
Ah, okay. I got you.
That's a lot. Oh my gosh. But 1 in 3 individuals have diabetes. So if you're in a room of 10 people, 3 of them have diabetes.
Wow. But
40% of adults in the U.S. have insulin resistance. And that is a problem. That's a very scary statistic because diabetes is serious.
So can you define what insulin resistance is then?
Oh, well, it's when your body becomes resistant to insulin's effects. It's a condition where the cells in insulin sensitivity tissues don't respond normally to insulin, and it results in the body's needing higher levels to maintain normal blood glucose tolerance.
And at what point does it become diabetes? Or
yes,
is it?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's like a precursor to diabetes.
It totally is. Some people call it pre-diabetes. Some people call it insulin resistance. I think a lot of healthcare practitioners might downplay the significance of taking action. Like it's I've heard, like, when I remember when I was first a dietitian, we would hear patients come in and say, oh, I have borderline diabetes. What do I do? And that's what my doctor said. And it's like, well, it's kind of like borderline pregnancy.
Like I'm almost pregnant. I'm really close.
It means you can take action with lifestyle to prevent diabetes from happening.
Once you're at that pre-diabetes or insulin resistant stage, is that what you mean?
That's a red flag that you need to change some things.
Okay, so you're at that stage, you've been diagnosed with pre-diabetes or whatever it's been called, and then you can make some changes.
That's right.
Right.
9 in 10 newly diagnosed American diabetes in 2003 were overweight.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We just did a whole bunch of episodes on Ozempic.
Mm-hmm.
And Ozempic side effects, which aren't so great. But the whole reason that Ozempic came around was to help people with diabetes to help with weight. Remember?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So the theory of why there's an epidemic of type 2 diabetes, it's something we've talked about a lot on this show. So human beings have basically outstripped evolution. Meaning like our ancestors lived in constant feast or famine. So our bodies learned to burn calories quickly and then store what wasn't needed as fat. And since we couldn't predict when the next feast or meal would be served up, the metabolic processes haven't kept up with that. So nowadays we have food all over all the time, access to food, the drive-thrus, we have feast.
It's a constant state of feast.
Yeah.
Every meal is a feast almost.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 3 times a day or, depending on what you're eating and how you're eating and how you're moving and how you're sleeping. It's all related. But basically, a lot of the population is storing more fat and that leads to metabolic changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So basically, type 2 diabetes is an end stage of a continuum of abnormal glucose and insulin metabolism. Long before the diagnosis of diabetes, you have insulin resistance.
Okay.
There we go. Prediabetes is also a key component of metabolic syndrome. Have you heard of metabolic syndrome?
Haven't we talked about we did an episode on that.
We sure did.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah. So there's key components of metabolic syndrome. So you have central obesity, so visceral fat, like abdominal obesity, plus 2 other characteristics. So you don't have to have all of these things, but basically central obesity plus low HDL, the healthy, so
right.
Low healthy blood sugar or blood cholesterol, so low HDL, or high triglycerides,
right?
Which you mentioned, triglycerides, so that's a cholesterol, or high blood pressure.
Okay.
And high glucose levels.
And when you say high, like I've got blood work recently and some of my numbers were like just like 0.1 or 2 outside of the range. And so they got flagged, but it's like, well, it's like 5.1 instead of 5. Is that considered at risk, or does it need to be like way like a 7 or an 8 or something like that before they go, wait, that's like you're at risk?
Well, it depends who you're talking to, but it depends
I'm talking to you.
Well, it depends. Like, are you talking to your doctor? Are you talking to the diabetes education clinic? Are you talking to an endocrinologist? Basically looking at your blood work, it was fine, but it also kind of shows that, okay, like this is something that's really important to watch out for, and we need to nip it in the bud.
Meaning what? Like it's kind of a red. It's like an orange flag.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Caution.
like, okay, that might be an area you need to make some changes or. Okay, gotcha.
So in a pre-diabetic state, you're already suffering damage to the arteries.
Oh, really? Because they're kind of under stress a little bit from the thick blood or whatever that's
sticky and sweet.
Right.
Right? Do you remember?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, your blood gets full of sugar and gets all sticky.
Honey sweet.
Yeah, I guess it is just like honey, right?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's trying to course through your body, and it doesn't. It's like a turtle.
I used to have these little, like, not straws, but like
Tubes.
And there was a healthy blood sugar one that just.
Oh, that's really neat.
And then there was one that was a higher blood sugar one, and it was slow and viscous and sticky, and it just shows what's happening. Like, what is happening if that's your blood in your, like, going through your kidneys, going through to your eyes, to your heart, to, you know, all of your organs and all of your extremities, like your toes and your fingers. So there are some, side effects if you do have insulin resistance or prediabetes or eventually type 2 diabetes. You can start to have issues around feeling, like the neuropathy. So you might not have feeling in your toes, in your extremities. You might have issues with your eyesight because it's affecting your eyes.
Right.
It can lead to, because the arteries are affected, it increases your risk for heart attack, for stroke, for blindness, for dementia.
Wow.
And premature death. So, you know, it's a pretty important condition. 84 million and only 10% know it.
Oh, because it's kind of hidden, like the symptoms are kind of hidden?
There's really not many symptoms. The symptoms, if you're starting to feel really thirsty, if you are urinating more often, like through the night and through the day, and you're very tired, your vision could start to be affected or change kind of rapidly, and you might start to lose weight unintentionally. And that could mean that you are developing diabetes, and you need to, what's something that you can do to help prevent, in terms of something you just did, and you were adamant that most people should do this every year?
Well, get your blood work. Get your doctor checkup, or whoever you see, like your health practitioner.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and to stay on top of your health and get the regular check, even if there's nothing wrong with you, getting some information about your sort of status, and you can compare it to, like we said with the blood work, it shows you the direction that your health is moving in. So, it's good to get that done. Whatever annual screenings you do too.
Yeah.
Those are there for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And every time you get your blood work done, ask for your cholesterol readings and diabetes risk factors. So fasting blood sugar and your hemoglobin A1C, which is a snapshot of the last 3 months of what's happening with your blood sugars.
Mm-hmm.
So, because, with metabolic syndrome, that can lead also to atherosclerosis and fatty liver. So if you have insulin resistance, that could increase your risk for non-alcoholic fatty liver, which is also on the increase. We did an episode way back on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have higher than normal blood sugar levels, and maybe you're fasting triglycerides, so that's the cholesterol, triglyceride.
Right. And
also LDL, so the lousy cholesterol, those could all indicate that metabolic syndrome, possibly insulin resistance, and that could be the road to type 2 diabetes.
And there you go. So what about diet? Does diet affect like what you're eating? Does it affect those functions in your body? Because it kind of sounded like the things that lead to diabetes are how your body, like your what's it called that makes the insulin?
The pancreas?
Your pancreas. Like your diet isn't going to affect how your pancreas functions, is it? Or your body's ability to process insulin? Is that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, it does?
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain that a little bit?
Remember, because I said if your body cells become resistant to the effects of insulin,
right,
then your pancreas has to pump out more.
Okay. So like eating cheeseburgers and pizza every day, how does that affect my pancreas or my body's ability do the whole insulin cycle, versus eating. I mean, like a healthy diet versus a bad diet. Like, how does diet impact your chances of getting diabetes or prediabetes?
I want to ask you this.
Oh, you're classic. Flipping the question around.
No, I want to see what you think.
All right, bring it. That question, you want me to answer my own question?
Yeah, well, what do you think would affect your risk of developing insulin resistance and then diabetes? What's one thing in your diet that might?
Well, probably sugar. I mean, that seems kind of obvious, right?
Absolutely.
So, but how does eating sugar impact those functions?
So remember, the blood is sticky and sweet.
Mm-hmm. So you're just adding more sugar to your system?
Overload.
Okay. Fair enough.
And your pancreas is working overtime. It's like, wait, I need a break. I need a coffee break. I can't keep keeping up with this.
Because your pancreas has to process that
The
sugar?
pancreas is releasing insulin, and the insulin takes the blood sugar into the cells.
So the more sugar you have in your system, the more
Your
insulin your
working.
pancreas. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, it wasn't. I wasn't registering the relationship there.
So if you think of someone with type 1 diabetes that they don't make any insulin. Their pancreas does not work with making insulin. So a lot of those people are thin and lean.
Right.
And they have to give themselves insulin every day, multiple times a day, every time they eat. But they're doing the job that the pancreas does with someone with type 2 or the rest of the population that maybe has insulin resistance.
Right, right. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a serious condition. It's growing. It's like an epidemic. And a lot of the reason is
processed food, full of sugar.
Lifestyle.
Well, and lifestyle.
Lifestyle, diet, our activity. Sedentarism is so dangerous for our body. It really is. Like, one thing we know, like if anyone ever wears a glucose monitor, a continuous glucose monitor, they'll see. They eat a meal. If you go out for a walk, your blood sugar comes right down. If you eat a meal and sit on the couch, your blood sugar goes up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just using the muscles, because your muscles use sugar to fuel them. So if you are moving your body, you remember that blood sugar, the sticky, sweet sugar in the blood? That is going to be taken care of with the muscles. The muscles help to take that.
That sticky blood is fueling the muscles. Well, the sugar in the blood is fueling the muscles. Right, right. Well, that makes sense.
So interesting. So people with diabetes have higher rates of stroke, of heart attack. 75 to 80% of people with diabetes will die of cardiovascular disease, erectile dysfunction, blindness, amputation, mostly lower limbs, amputation, kidney failure, nerve damage, painful skin ulcers, dementia. So people with diabetes have 3 times more risk of developing dementia, colon cancer, depression, and anxiety. So it is a disease worth preventing. And if any healthcare provider has ever said to you, you have insulin resistance or prediabetes or metabolic syndrome, this is your warning sign, your first strikeout, your red flag to make different choices through your daily habits.
Yeah, for sure. It's not just something to like put off until it becomes worse. That's like Sandra said, that's a red flag at this point to make some changes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what are some of the changes that we can make? So 3 major lifestyle changes that, like the top 3 that you can start right away in January, the new year. One of your resolutions for health could be the one thing that you said.
We'll go and do the doctor to get your regular checkup. That one.
Well, that definitely that's
number
important
4.
Important thing to do. But in lifestyle and diet is sorry, I'm pretending you can read my mind.
I can sometimes.
No, not usually. I'm just joking. Okay, number 1 thing: reduce sugar.
Well, okay. Yeah, that's
Almost
a given.
obvious, right?
Yeah, pretty obvious.
Yeah, but
not just like adding sugar to your coffee. When I heard reduced sugar, like when sugar became a big thing, I don't know, in the past few years, everyone's talking about, oh, don't eat sugar, blah blah blah. In my mind, I pictured that as like adding like spoonfuls of sugar to my coffee.
like Mary Poppins, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down.
Exactly. Just like that.
That's right.
But that's not, I mean, it means more than that because there's sugar in everything. So it's not reducing sugar per se. It's reducing foods that have a lot of sugar in them.
And reducing sugar.
Well, yeah, obviously, and reducing
Absolutely.
sugar. But
If coffee and sugar is the only way you drink coffee, stop drinking coffee.
yeah, or drink it black like I do.
Or just milk.
Yeah.
But the thing is, so beverages is the number one way that we get simple sugars in our diet, most of the population.
Mm-hmm.
Number one. So what beverages?
Well, soda pop.
Yeah. So pop in Canada, soda in the States.
Well, that's why I said soda pop.
Or soda
So
pop.
everyone would know what I'm talking about.
That's right. What other kind of beverages?
Well, alcohol. A lot of alcoholic beverages have sugar in them, right?
Sure. I'm talking more like daily, like let's go to Starbucks.
Oh, well, juice, Starbucks juice, tea, coffee. Okay, there you go. Oh, your fancy coffees, your lattes, and all those creamy things that look like dessert.
Remember, nowadays...
There might be a little bit of sugar in those.
Yeah.
Just a guess.
A lot. And, in the 70s, there were no cup holders in cars or in baby strollers. Now there's cup holders everywhere because people have their coffee or their tea or their juice or whatever.
That's why cars are so big now, because they have to accommodate the cup holders.
That's right. And the bigger people.
I saw a picture of a car the other day, and it had these like in the front, the console thing in the front between the seats. It had 4 like massive, you could have put like a 2-liter pop bottle in there, but they're probably designed for people's coffee mugs. It's crazy.
I know.
And there was 4 of them.
Or big gulps.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what
like
I'm
that
thinking.
Size.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So that's like really low-hanging fruit in terms of one habit you can change. That is huge. Just to reduce it or cut it out completely. We don't really need it. We don't need those, calorie-rich fluids.
It's crazy how many people, that's the habit. That's their daily drink. It's just like, they just, that's all they drink is soda. Mm-hmm. And they think it's okay because it's diet or because it's, I don't know, whatever. But there's nothing nutritionally good about pop.
No.
Period.
Exactly. So reduce sugar, beverages. So what are some other obvious, like maybe?
That contain sugar, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like sweets, candy, all that kind of stuff, cookies, ice cream, all your fancy bakery things, donuts, muffins, all that stuff.
Absolutely. All of those. Even, simple, well, those are simple sugars, but if you think of refined white, not that I'm saying that you have to cut out carbohydrate foods, but you can watch the portion of if you're eating white rice or pasta or crackers, those kind of savory foods can also increase your blood sugar. Nowadays, so many people are monitoring their own blood sugar, even if they don't have diabetes. So the continuous glucose monitors. And it's an interesting experiment to see what happens in your body because everybody's a little bit different. But you've probably heard of the glycemic index.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What do you think that means?
It's the level of sugar in your body, isn't it? Something like that?
It's the response that your body has to different foods. So with the glycemic index, they use like white sugar will spike your blood sugar after you eat it. White bread, Cheerios, white rice. So all these different things will spike your blood sugar a certain amount after you eat them.
Right.
The problem with the glycemic index is that most people eat food in meals or with other foods. So there's other components of the food that reduces the blood sugar rise.
Oh, I see.
So usually you don't just have, white rice. You usually have some vegetables and some protein foods like some chicken or fish or beef with it. So that reduces the blood sugar rise of that white rice.
Oh, I see.
So that's what the glycemic index is. So if you're having a lot of foods that have a high glycemic index, so they're made with refined carbohydrates, like not whole grains, that will increase how much your blood sugar is rising every time you eat.
Right. And is that, where do you find that information? Like, is it printed on the label or something? Or is it, do you know what I mean? Do you have to look it up online? There's a chart with standard numbers for things.
That's a good question. It's not really, the glycemic index is more of an idea. Like I don't want people to get too
focused on it.
Yeah, it's because remember we talk about balanced meals and eating, half your plate as vegetables, quarter protein, quarter starch. So if you think of the starch part of the plate, what would be a better glycemic index food?
Better than what? Like what whole grain is better than white?
Exactly. In
general, right?
In general, if you could use most of your grains as whole grains, so they have fiber.
Right.
Right? So they have some of the bran on it, or they have a way that is it's not as refined. So the more processing that grain goes through, it becomes, our body doesn't need to process it as much. So it's a higher glycemic index.
Right. I see.
Okay. So what would be, for someone who has a sweet tooth and they just need their sweets, what would they do?
They'd eat dark chocolate.
Yeah, dark
really?
chocolate.
That's the right answer?
That's a good answer.
Okay.
Yeah, if, that would be, it's a little bit bitter. Remember, bitter for the bile. It's got some of those polyphenols. It's still sweet. Some people will not eat dark chocolate because it's not sweet. They like the white chocolate or the milk chocolate because that has more sugar. And
then what about fruit? Fruit's sweet.
Exactly. Fruit's the
Mother Nature's candy.
Yeah, absolutely. So fruit would be a good solution. If you have a sweet tooth, sometimes actually using fruit that's warm. So if you have frozen berries and then you warm them and then you put them like you do like a crisp, like a, rhubarb strawberry crisp, that would be a sweet dessert that's pretty healthy and okay for the blood sugars.
Right.
Depending on how you bake it too. Depending what ingredients you put in. If you put a ton of white sugar into whatever baking you're making, that is going to increase the blood sugars.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So there's lots of ways we could do an episode actually about substitutions. So how to make sweet desserts healthier with less added sugar.
I love it.
Okay. So that's number one, reduce sugar, change your grains to more whole grains. So they have more fiber and a lower glycemic index response. Number two.
Exercise probably, right?
Yeah. Move the body.
You're talking about that glucose monitor and how instant the exercise or your muscle movement affected it.
After you eat, it's a good time to get up, stand up, walk around, maybe go for a walk, go walk the dog, whatever it is, move that body, get those muscles helping with that glucose.
Yes,
into the cells, right?
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so we're trying to get the sugar from the food that we eat and digest. We want to get that into our muscles. So it's great to, after eating a meal, stand up, walk around, move your legs, start, doing those micro activities.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's really important for overall health and for helping with preventing insulin resistance to turn into diabetes, or actually helping to prevent insulin resistance. Too many of us are sedentary.
Yeah, it's just part of how life is these days. There's so many more opportunities to sit. Well, I wouldn't call them opportunities. I think it's just the nature of life these days. So there's a lot of sitting.
Yeah, and a lot of times when we've had a really hard day, we're stressed out at work, what do you do when you come home?
You put your feet up.
Yeah, exactly. You get more sedentary.
Yeah.
So, just little habits like that, like for self-care, go for a walk, go out in nature, go, play a sports game or, do something that's active. And that actually is going to be very restorative and healing and healthy for your body.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, something that we can do pretty much right away. So reduce sugar, we said, move the body. Number 3.
Sleep.
Yes. I'm glad you know my charades.
Yeah. I've learned, well, that was a pretty obvious one. You just like fell over kind of thing.
Yeah. Fell over. That's right. Yeah. So, I think it's not emphasized enough, good quality sleep. Like it's so, so, so important.
Mm-hmm.
So however that is for you, like trying to get 7 hours of good quality sleep.
Not 7 hours in bed, 7 hours of sleep, which probably means 8 hours in bed or more.
Well, depending on that's the thing about habits, right? A lot of people will look at their phone or they're watching media or whatever right until they close their eyes. That is not good. That is not good. We need to start the process of going to bed earlier. So if you need to look at your phone or you need to do any work or emails or even watching movies or whatever, try to do that and then have a period of non-blue light activity before you actually fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
So really important to have at least 10 minutes, but it's better an hour of time where you're not looking at any blue light.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one.
So yeah. And 7 hours. Exactly. So, and that's deep restorative sleep. If you can, that's really key for preventing
all
the
sorts
development
of
diabetes too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know diabetes is the 7th leading cause of death in the States?
I can imagine. Yeah. It would be up there for sure.
Yeah. And the CDC says 30 million people have diabetes. A quarter of them don't know it.
So when it's a leading cause of death, because it seems to me that diabetes is like an umbrella of a whole bunch of different things. So
yes.
What is the actual cause of death? Someone has a heart attack related to diabetes, or do you know what I mean? It could be any number of those things.
Yeah. Remember I said with people with diabetes have 80% risk of dying from cardiovascular disease.
Right.
And so stroke, heart attack.
Circulation issues. Yeah. All those things. Okay.
Yeah. So some examples of, let's just get on here to breakfast ideas.
Can I just add one more thing to the list of things we can change?
Yes.
Drink more water.
Yeah.
Would that sort of help with your blood? What's the word?
Viscosity?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's important to drink enough water for sure to be hydrated. And if your kidneys are working well, then your body does that. But it's a lot of us aren't drinking enough water. So that's a good thing to add for sure. Usually 7, 8, 9 cups of water, depending on your body size, your activity, male, female, your body composition. Those are all factors in determining how much water or how much fluid you need to have in a day. But yeah, that's a good one to mention for sure, because if we're not going to be drinking pop and sweetened beverages like coffees and teas, then yeah, we have to increase our water consumption.
Absolutely.
It's a good one. Okay. All right. So what is an example of a good, wholesome breakfast for someone with diabetes or someone who has insulin resistance or someone who wants to prevent any of those things?
Oatmeal.
With?
Nuts and seeds.
Yeah.
And fruit.
Yeah. Plus maybe yogurt, plus maybe cottage cheese.
Sure. Yeah.
So those
things. You want some protein and some fiber.
Yeah, exactly.
And some healthy fats.
Yeah. And if it's your first meal a day, it's a good opportunity to start the day out right and have that balance. So remember, we've talked about 30 different plant foods in a week.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that oatmeal is 10 probably if you do it upright.
Because it's not just oats.
No, well, you got all the other things in it too.
I do talk to people that say, when I have oatmeal, I feel hungry an hour later. Why do you think that is?
Because they open the little sugary oatmeal packet and put it in, and that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, they're probably having a refined, the more processed the oats are, it increases the glycemic index of that food. So we want to have, like, a steel cut oat is a great foundation for your oatmeal. So using steel cut oats and then adding those nuts and seeds, because they have the healthy fats, they have that fiber. The fats, the fiber, protein, all reduce that blood sugar rise after a meal. Mm-hmm. So if you're just eating a donut, the blood sugar rise is going to go way up. But if you eat oatmeal with nuts, seeds, yogurt, or cottage cheese, and fruit, berries, that will all help reduce that blood sugar rise and give you, your whole body, more nutrients. So you're going to get those macronutrients, so the protein, the fat, the carbohydrates, and we're going to get more of the minerals that are super important to help with keeping your weight stable. And we talked about that at the end of last year, a recent episode about the lock and key of minerals and why eating more food can lead to weight loss.
Yeah, exactly.
So it depends on the type of food. So having a breakfast like that oatmeal we talked about, nuts, seeds, fruit, we can just load it up with a variety of different plant foods that will help with keeping you feeling full. And so you won't be wanting a snack like an hour later.
Mm-hmm. Ever since I started eating oatmeal, I'll eat my oatmeal at, say, usually before 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not hungry for lunch until about 1 o'clock, and I eat a lot of food and I'm hungry often. Like, it's unusual for me to go long periods without eating, but that is easy. That bowl of oatmeal keeps me full. And yeah, when I used to have just a regular bowl of cereal with milk, it didn't, I was hungry later, or like the toast and peanut butter or just that kind of breakfast. I was hungry by mid-morning easily. So yeah, there's some truth to it.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing is, so a lot of people that I talk to that have diabetes, they might be going with no carbohydrate, which I don't really recommend. But if you are an egg for breakfast kind of person, that's fine too. Just try to have other things with the eggs. So not just eggs, like have some veggies with those eggs, have some whole grain toast, or what do you put with your eggs?
I like salsa. Mm-hmm. We'll make a hard-boiled egg or like a poached egg in the little microwave poacher. And yeah, put it on toast with some salsa, a little avocado on the side.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's delicious.
Yeah, so that's a good breakfast. And the other one, the number 3 would be, especially in the summer, maybe not as much now, but it's still good, is a smoothie.
Oh, smoothies are always good.
Yeah. So with the, different ingredients that include the protein, the carb, the fiber, the fluid, the fruit, and the flavor. So, getting all those components in that smoothie so that you're making sure it has some fiber and some protein.
Yeah. Don't think of it as a drink. Think of it as a meal. And then make sure you put all the components that make a complete meal, like the plate ratio.
Yeah.
But a liquid plate ratio.
Yeah, because a smoothie that is orange juice and mango and banana.
That's just like liquid sugar.
There's not a lot of fiber in that. There's hardly any protein. So add some yogurt to that, or cottage cheese. Add some berries, like more different berries. You could add some protein powder. You could add some flaxseed, ground flaxseed.
Yeah,
you can have
some sort of milk.
Yeah.
Instead of orange juice.
Yeah.
Or as well as, either or.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good. Wow. And if you do have diabetes, there's a couple things to monitor every year. Rob was mentioning going to your doctor, getting blood work done. It's important for the ABCs. So the blood work, so hemoglobin A1C is a blood test to show the last 3-month average of your blood sugar. And B would be blood pressure. Is really important to keep monitoring that, make sure you don't have high blood pressure, because having elevated blood sugar and blood pressure can really put you at risk for metabolic syndrome and diabetes. And the C is the cholesterol. So look at those cholesterol readings and the triglycerides and the healthy HDL and the LDL, the lousy. So the ABCs is hemoglobin A1C, the blood pressure, and cholesterol. Those things should all be monitored on a regular basis, especially if you have diabetes.
There you go. Do you recommend having those monitors?
No.
No. Not
unless you have diabetes. If you have insulin resistance, maybe. It's another tool in the toolbox of, just like the MyFitnessPal or chronometer meter to measure like your food and to monitor your intake. It's another way to measure and monitor your blood sugar response, your blood pressure. There's monitors for everything. I don't recommend people using those monitors every day on a daily basis. You could get a little bit OCD about it.
That's what I'm wondering, yeah.
But, it does give you a snapshot. So it helps for some people, definitely.
Good to know. Well, that was a pretty thorough amount of information, and I learned a lot. So thanks for sharing that, and hopefully everyone else is a little bit more educated.
And hopefully we answered the question, is insulin resistance the same as diabetes?
Yeah, no, you definitely did. I think it's good to discern between those two, so thanks for explaining that. So that is it. If you want more information, check out our website. We've got all sorts of information there. We've got a great blog. You can sign up for a weekly newsletter. You can also email us your questions. It's mywifetherd@gmail.com. Check us out online as well. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Feel free to drop us a line there as well. Add some comments. Let us know how we're doing. I love hearing your feedback. Talking about feedback, rate and review the show. That's a great thing to do as well. And share with your friends. We always like spreading the word, helping other people find the show. So that is it. We will be back Wednesday with Nutrition Nuggets. So until then, have a great week, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on My Wife the Dietitian. If you like what you heard, don't be shy. Leave us a comment or review, and be sure to share our podcast with your friends. If you'd like to hear more, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media pages for updates, episode trailers, and other odds and ends. For more info and links on what we discussed on today's episode, check the show notes. We'll be back next week with another informative and fun-filled episode.